Hi everyone. Am I audible? Yes, no. Great, great guys, great. So we're just waiting for a couple of more people to join in and then we'll get started. So you would learn what RAG is and how do you build your own first RAG application. Are you guys excited? Yes, no. Great. So what college are you guys from? Like all of you from? No, no, that I understood that you guys are from MREM, but what year? First year, second year, which year are you guys from? Third year, great. BITS, third year, second year, fourth year, wow. Second year, great guys, great, great. Pretty good, pretty good. So what I'll quickly do is I'll quickly walk you through certain things that we have planned, right? To show all of you. So let's get started. Let me know when my screen is visible. So guys, is my screen visible? Yes, no? I'm not able to see Q&A. Let's click on start. Oh, yes. Cool. But where would I be able to see the chat? Where did it go? Pretty new to the interface here. Team, where would I be able to see whether people are answering or not? Okay, it's chat. Yep, got it. Cool. So we'll get started. And as I said, we are going to be building our first RAG application, right? So does anyone of you know what RAG is and has heard about it by any chance? RAG. Or how many of you guys know? Okay, let me have this thing. How many of you guys know?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Will you please give me a moment to welcome you all?
Sure, sure. You can go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Good evening to Mr. Vemula Bharath Simha Reddy, the Director of Training and Placements and Corporate Relations of the MREM, and our esteemed speaker, Mr. Bhavishya Pandit, and all dear students. Bef- Before we begin, let me take a moment to introduce our esteemed speaker, Mr. Bhavishya Pandit. Mr. Bhavishya Pandit is a senior Gen AI engineer, LinkedIn top voice, educator, and content creator who has made an incredible impact in the world of technology and education. Within over 5 years of experience, he has been creating insightful and engaging content on topics like Python, machine learning, deep learning, generative AI, large language models, data analysis, computer vision, NLP, GID, and Google Cloud Platform. His content has reached over 20 million views across various platforms, including LinkedIn, Twitter, and ML India, now Age of Geeks, inspiring thousands of learners to explore the world of tech. As a mentor, he has guided more than 2,500 students in launching and shaping their tech careers. He has also been a speaker at 50 plus events and workshops, including prestigious institutions and organizations like IIT Jodhpur, and even sessions conducted for the Ministry of Home Affairs, Government of India. Mr. Bhavishya believes in lifelong learning and approaches very challenged with curiosity, consistency, and unbreakable spirit. His passion for mentoring and simplifying complex technical concepts make him one of the most respected voices in AI and data science community. We are truly honored to have him with us today to share his insights on RAG. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Bhavishya Pandit. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this warm introduction. I'm really happy to be here. Pardon me, guys, for not being able to switch on my video. I actually got sick this afternoon. I'm caught up in some weather. But nevertheless, there are certain things which I wanted to ask and I wanted to gauge. Since you all are from college, you all would have learned and heard about ChatGPT, right? Yes, no. So see guys, I would want all of you to be pretty proactive here because only then I would be able to understand whether we all are on the same page or not, right? So the chat window for you guys is the medium for communication so that I would be able to understand if I have to explain something again or if you have gotten it completely or not. Right? Hope you guys understand this much, right? So you all have used ChatGPT, right? And what is your familiarity with generative AI? Have you only heard about it, or you have some idea as well? Where are you on that? Let me know. So based on that, we'll pace it based on that. How deep do we have to go into, and from how basics do I have to start, right? Although we are covering pretty much everything, but that would also help me understand the crowd and help me understand what is the level of familiarity people have with these concepts. Do you guys know what Gen AI is? Generative AI? I mean, okay. Used by some applications such as Gemini and LLM for my work. Okay. Gen AI can create new content such as text, images, videos, audios, and code. Great one, Uvesh. Nice one. And some short of similar with ChatGPT. Okay, good. Perplexity AI. Okay, a type of artificial intelligence that can create new. Great one, Teja. Good one. It's an AI that we can use to build some things also. Okay. I'm so sorry, guys. Having a, I'm down with fever, so won't take much time, right? I see that there is some familiarity with all with these concepts already, right? So basically, this session is going to be around building your first generative AI application, and so you might be thinking, what exactly in this, right? So there are mainly three components of RAG, right? The first one is retrieval, the second one is augment. It is called retrieval-augmented generation, right? And I'm so sorry. There is a sudden change in weather here, and because of that, that problem has been there. But nevertheless, we'll start by understanding what is generative AI. right? And how did we get onto it? How did we come up with RAG, and what were the challenges of that, right? So we need to understand what generative AI is. We need to understand what generative AI is, and then based on that, we'll go forward and understand. So since you were already saying that generative AI is a way where new content can be generated, and so it's like ChatGPT. So when you give some content to ChatGPT, right, it understands that and gives answer based on that. One very simple example that I'd give you is is more of which you all would be able to relate. So let's say you want to write your assignments. When I was in college, I used to write assignments, or mainly, or even if we had a hard time writing assignments, we would just copy it from our friends, right? We all have been there. But now in ChatGPT's era, what you guys are doing is smart work. You don't even do that, because copying from your friend happens when your friend has completed it, right? When your friend himself or herself has not completed it, what would you copy? Where would you copy from? Right? So what you do in that case is you simply go and ask ChatGPT to write an answer for you, right? So what ChatGPT is doing over here is content generation, right? Is nothing but content generation. Now there are certain challenges around that part as well, where how these things work is how these things generative AI is generating new content from a prompt or text that you have written. Is you can create answers to your assignments, you can create videos, you can create songs, you can create image also now, right? So a lot of things can be done through this, like that is what generative AI is. In simple terms, that is what it is doing, right? You have one prompt, it generates, and then you execute it and you get an output based on that, right? So this is the same thing that we have discussed. We have text, images. We just give a prompt. It is given to a foundational model. Foundational model. So in this case, with ChatGPT, your foundational model is GPT. You might have heard of. If you are using Gemini, so in that case, the foundational model is Gemini, right? And it is able to generate video, audio, images, and text for you, right? And it was basically built on transformer and LLMs and encoder block, decoder block, and all that stuff. We won't be going that much in depth into it, right? So let me know, guys, if till here, if everything is clear to you. Yes, no. Great, guys, great. So generative AI, just a quick recap. Generative AI is nothing but a way for you to be able to generate content, right? And you might have heard about it, that it is booming, AI is booming and all of that stuff, and that is actually true, right? Now because of that, it has become extremely important for you to attend such sessions, build projects around it, gain some experience, right? Because the world is moving pretty fast, I'll be very honest, right? The world is automating it. World is automating a lot of workflows. A lot of employees are being laid off. You might be hearing them in the news and all of that stuff, right? So if you would not update yourself, if you would not learn new things, you'll fall behind, right? And that is why sessions like such are extremely important in this case, right? So let's go ahead. Have you guys heard about? So and we have understood uh, what generative AI is. Do you guys have any idea on large language models by any chance? Yes, no, or if you have, tell me what do you understand by large language models? What do you think large language models are? Keep telling me. I'm listening. I'm checking the chats. You guys have any idea what LLM is? If you don't know what it is, what is a large language model, or you have only heard about it, then also that's fine, guys, right? Let me know. Or even if you have some idea with some answer in your head, just give it a shot, right? It is not an interview or your a viva going on for you're in your college, right? Just give it a shot, right? I'd be reading some answers with the names of people who have written them, so that you would be able to get some ideas of what exactly people are writing, and the right answers, or the answers that are near to right, I'll read them, right? So that in case you don't know it, you'd still get to understand what it is, right? So LLMs are combination of multiple ML plus DL algorithms. Okay, nice try, Venkat. Okay, Dinesh Paloju says that LLM, where did it? LLM is an AI which is trained on large amount of data to give views to generate answers. Yes, good Dinesh. What else people are saying? Yashwant Rachuru is saying LLM is an advanced AI system to understand or generate or manipulate human language. Okay. Meka Anjal Reddy is saying they are type of artificial intelligence designed to process and understand human language, generating human-like responses. LLMs have numerous applications, including language translation, text, etc. Okay, good. It's good that you guys are attempting, right? So LLMs, as you all have said, right? You have been very pretty close. LLMs are, the full form is large language model, right? Large means it is a very big model, right? Language model means it is trained on language. Okay, language means text data. Text means all of the information or all these things that you're writing in the chat right now is textual data. If you would have pasted uploaded images, that would have been image data as well, right? So chat gpt, Gemini, all of these models have been trained on enormous amount of data, where they have sort of scraped the entire internet in some or the other way, right? And through that, they have fed it to their large language model, and then based on that, it has been able to give you answers based on whatever things that you are asking. That is the language part. Similarly, if the model would have been trained for vision tasks, that is called a large vision model, right? Where it is able to generate images, where it is able to understand images and all of that stuff, right? But as a whole, large language model, since it is language, that means text, natural language, right? Natural language processing comes here. So that is what LLM is. LLMs are advanced AI systems built on deep neural networks designed to process and understand human-like text. You guys were right. It is built on massive amount of data. You guys were right here as well. It does nothing but it learns patterns and grammar from the data that you have given, and then based on that, it understands the patterns and then generates a response based on whatever prompt or query question you have asked the large language model, right? Similarly, you give input over here, and then you can have your question answering, sentiment analysis. It can do an image captioning, object recognition. This is not just for LLMs. This is for multiple other models as well, like vision model and all of that stuff also. So different use cases have been included here, right? But just like everything in technology, right? Acha, okay. By the end of this session, you would also be able to build. So right now you are understanding generative AI and all of that stuff, but you'd be jumping on to RAG, and later on, by the end of this session, you'll also be able to see how RAG actually works, and you would be able to build a simple application, a RAG application in your system as well, right? So we have, so just like everything in technology, right, it has its own benefits, and certainly it also comes with its own set of challenges as well, right? It's like you know you go home, you're right now you're staying at home in your hostel right now, for example, right? But when you go home, it feels good, but at the same time your mom because you are coming after such a long time, your mom might be feeding you so much food that you might get fat, right? Just a simple example. So the benefit of going home is, yes, you tend to see your loved ones, you meet your parents when you are having a college life. And if you're not a day scholar, if you're a hostler, you're living in hostels and you are going home once in 3 months, 6 months, 7 8 months, sometimes during placements and final year, maybe even once a year, right? So that is a tendency where you go home after a very long time, right? So what actually happens over there is, you go home, you meet your mom, she loves you, and you feel good. So that is the benefit of being close to your loved ones. But the challenge over there again is, as I said, right, now your mom sees her child after such a long time, she'll start cooking a lot of food and she'll start feeding you, and suddenly you have gained 2 3 kgs of weight. Right? So that's that's one challenge, right? So just like everything, you can have you have certain set of challenges with every technology. No Thanos thing, you cannot use AI to destroy the world. Why would you want to do it? Leave it to the people, they'll do it by themselves. So similarly, the challenges in LLM is, we have limited context retention, we have bias and training. I'll explain what all these are, right? Data privacy concerns, misinformation, and all of that, right? So I'll let's take these things one by one. Okay, let's say, what does bias and training data means? Let's say, let's pick one person from the chat itself. Um, let's talk about Anirudh Bathula. Okay, so let's say Anirudh has a friend Raj who has told Anirudh that this particular professor is very strict, right? And this professor does not give marks very easily. Okay, so when Raj says that to Anirudh, what exactly happens is, Anirudh tends to have certain bias. He tends to see that Professor Ram Murthy is going to be very strict. He is not going to give me marks easily in the exams, right? Yala, etc., etc., right? So that is one bias. So what exactly now happens is, whatever now someone, if uh, Anirudh's girlfriend maybe, or some other friend named Preeti asks him about Ramurthy. So what Anirudh would say is simply that, I think that Professor Ramurthy is very strict, and he is not going to give marks, and he is not going to give attendance also if we are not maybe completing the assignments and all of that stuff, maybe, right? So this is what bias is, right? Similarly, so whenever we are training these models, very big large language models, what exactly happens is, we tend this data tends to have bias also in it, right? Bias can be in terms of a particular religion, it can be based on particular region, people can have certain set of opinions around certain topics or people, right? Etc., etc. So now what exactly that happens is, so the same example as I gave of Professor Ram Murthy, right? Professor Ram Murthy in reality can be the sweetest professor you can ever meet, right? But just because of a bad experience Anirudh's friend had, he simply told Anirudh that he's not a good professor. Professor Ramurthy is not a good professor, right? And then that is the image what Anirudh carries of Dr. Professor Ramurthy, right? So that is just one example. Similarly, the same thing happens with your data as well, right? So that is one challenge. There are other challenges where there are high computational cost, right? That is associated when you are running very big these models, right? It takes a lot of effort, right? There's a lot of cost associated to it. Misinformation and hallucination can happen, and data privacy concerns are there. So you might have heard about it, and that you might have asked ChatGPT early days, and it would have simply said whatever, right? Might not even actually be very pretty accurate. It's like you would have asked, who is the prime minister of the country? Someday it will come and say Rahul Gandhi, for example, right? Or someday it will say that I don't know, right? So hallucinations and misinformation can be spread easily through these large language models as well. That is one part, right? Now the other aspect is, do you guys know what hallucination is, or do you want me to slide in a bit deep into it? Do you guys know what hallucination means? Hallucination means imagination. No, not the this medical term hallucination. What about the rest? I have seen six, seven people say yes. What about? I'll explain. If there are people who don't know what hallucination is, not a problem. I'll explain it. Not a problem at all. But you guys have to let me know if you guys know what hallucination is. Out of topic. Cool. In very simple terms, I will tell you what hallucination is, right? With very simple example, right? First, I'll tell a very simple definition so that, and then I'll explain it with a very simple example. So let's say hallucination is nothing but giving a response that sounds right, but in reality it is not. Okay. A very simple example I'd give you is, you are in a viva, right? You're sitting in a viva. You have not studied for that viva. Okay. Your professor asks a question to you, but you have no idea about that answer. Okay. So now what do is you simply go and just start blabbering something around the topic. Maybe you are beating around the bush, right? And you are confidently saying the answer. So to professor, just because you are confident, maybe you are sounding right, but the answer that you are giving is not right. Right. So that is what hallucination is, where you tend to give an answer to your professor, which you also know is not correct, but just because you do not want to say that, हाँ exactly, बात को घुमाना, right? You're beating around the bush. You're either beating around the bush or you're just making things up to cover, and to cover that awkwardness. You simply cannot say your professor that, boss, you are asking these questions to me. I did not read it. I was maybe maybe I was hanging around with my friends, or I was sleeping and I did not study, or whatever it would have been, right? We all have been there in colleges and we have done these things. So eh, better saying than that, you just simply make up an answer, say it to a professor. So that is exactly what happens here with hallucinations as well. So what it does is you simply go and make things up instead of actually admitting that you don't know it, right? So that is what hallucination is. Now the last challenge is limited context retention. Okay. It's like, again, one very simple example. There is an exam and you have not studied for that exam. Okay. And there are 3 units. This is your final exam of that semester. There are 3 units, and one night before you have mugged up everything. You have read all the ppts, all the notes, right? You have you have borrowed the classroom notes, the subject notes from the topper girl in your class, right? And you're just mugging these things up, you're just biting them down, right? And you're planning to vomit all of the information the next day, for example, right? Now what happens over here is you would be able to retain only a certain amount of information. There are 200 pages notes. In one night, would you be able to remember everything? Tell me, guys, would you be able to remember everything? Yes, no. No matter how good of an handwriting that topper girl of your class has written in, right? Or no matter how smart you are in, it would be very difficult for you to remember all the 200 pages in one night, right? So that is exactly what will happen here as well. No matter how good the information is or how refined the information is, any large language model, it is able to retain only a certain amount of information, right? And that information is called context window. Okay. So it's like your topper friend has given you notes, 200 pages of notes, but at max Anirudh can remember only 20 pages, right? The information that is there in 20 pages only, right? So that is what his context window is. Did you guys understand? Yes, no? Yes, yes. So these are the challenges with large language models, right? So now, Anirudh said, "Man, yeah, I'm really pretty tired of this thing. Now, if my friend is even giving me the notes and I'm not able to remember it, uh, and Anirudh is not able to, is not confident whether he will be able to perform good in his exam or not, right? So what Anirudh decides is, so first of all, sorry, Anirudh, you are going to be the example of the session today, okay? So so now Anirudh has gotten the notes. Anirudh's first attempt is to remember and mug up everything. But the problem with Anirudh is there are 200 pages. How would he be able to do it? Right? So Anirudh says, I'll just kick it off, man. Right? What I'll do is I'll just take these notes in the exam and I will cheat. Okay? I will, whatever question that is being asked to me, right? I will, what I'll do is I will cheat. So, so basically what Anirudh is doing is he is referring the response from somewhere, right? So whatever questions that he sees in the question paper, he understands that, acha, okay, this question is being asked. Now what I will do is I will just open these notes, right? Maybe he has hidden these notes in his pants, or he is carrying some cheats, or these notes are in, he has put these notes in washroom. We have no idea, right? That is Anirudh's business. Okay. So what Anirudh does is he reads all the questions or a particular question, and then he goes to the notes, and then he finds out where that answer to that question is. Right? That is exactly what RAG does. RAG is referring from somewhere. Right? That is exactly what RAG does, and this is what RAG is. So when you ask a question to a large language model, the large language model understands your question, understands the notes, right? And then goes back and finds that answer in the notes, right? So that is exactly what RAG does. Okay. Did you guys understand this much? What RAG initially does? RAG is inspired from cheating in exams. Okay. Yes, no, did you guys understand? Trying to give as relatable examples as possible so that you guys are able to understand. But in case if something, if my pace is going too fast, or you'd want me to repeat anything again, please tell me. Let me know. Right. So RAG is your existing knowledge plus your external knowledge source, right? And then it retrieves the information on a real time basis, right? What problems does it solve? It improves the accuracy, and now he does not have to remember everything. So when Anirudh knows that I can kick it off, yaar, right? I can kick it off now. That topper girl of my class has already given me the notes, right? Now when he knows that he can cheat in the exam, do you really think he would want to remember 200 pages of notes? No, right? So so now he does not have to remember all the 200 pages of notes. So that means the context window limitation that I was talking about earlier, right? That he has to remember all the information. So now he does not have to remember that. Okay, so that problem is solved. The other thing is hallucinations used to happen when you do not have enough context. So in the hallucination thing, which I said, hallucination is nothing but you try to sound right, but you are wrong in reality, right? Your professor has asked some question in Viva, and you're just making an answer up. But if in reality you would have read, and if you would have actually been prepared, would you do it? No. So what that means is if Anirudh would have studied before the Viva, he wouldn't have to confidently, say wrong answer, right? Just because you are confident in your answer, that does not make your answer correct, right? You actually have to be correct as well, right? So, so how hallucinations are solved is if you give the right context, right? If that context is there, it would not hallucinate. So what that means is if Anirudh would have studied before the exam, right, or studied before the Viva, he would have said correct answer to professor, right? That's what happens here as well. So that's one part, right? So this is exactly how it works. You have a prompt, right? Data retrieval happens. It generates the response, and the response is given to the user. Okay. Now, how does it retrieve the data? So, very simple question again, right? How does Anirudh know which where to find the answer to a specific question in? Or you put yourself in Anirudh's shoes, right? And you are cheating in the exam, right? You have read the question. How do you know which part of the cheat or which part of the notes do you guys have to refer? How do you know that? Give it a shot, guys. Let me know what you guys think. How do you guys know where to refer? So Venkat says, check the info we have prepared. Okay. What about others? If you guys are cheating, right? Or I'm addressing the wrong crowd who has never cheated, so that is a different thing. But just playful examples I'm giving so that the session is engaging and entertaining as well, and at the same time educational as well. Okay, so Bittu Agarwal says basic knowledge that we have about that topic. Okay, that is partly true. Give it a try, guys. What do you guys think? Sarthak Mishra says by knowing, like reading all the important topics from the note and important question and PYQ trend. I'm not sure what PYQ is, but okay. By remembering the keywords. Okay, that is also true. Good one, Venkat. Good one. Previous year questions. Oh, okay. I see. PYQ. What do other people think? Let me know in the chat. Only three or four people have cheated or what? Probably by understanding the context of the question. Labels. Okay. Good stuff. Exactly. So this is exactly what happens here as well. So what happens in this case is you simply go and do a similarity search. So you have your documents, your data sources, right? And you have a question that the user has asked, right? You do a similarity search over here. And how does that similarity search works is based on the vectors that you have created. Vectors are nothing but numerical representation of the data. I would not want to be that technical in this session. We'll keep it pretty simple, right? But it's like what in the chat also the answers that you have given. What basically you are trying to do and achieve is nothing but you are trying to do some similarity search. Okay. So when you are trying to map the keywords from the question and the notes that you have, or let's say you have a basic, someone had written, we have basic understanding of the notes and topics, right? So yes, so based on that you are also trying to do some similarity search. You try to see either the keywords or the important phrases or some topic that has been discussed in a particular chapter or in a particular unit. From that you naturally get to understand that acha, okay, I need to focus on this. So if there are three units or two units do you have, each of 100 pages, right? So total you have 200 pages. Now when you know that this question belongs to unit 2, that naturally narrows down your scope from referring and finding the answer in 200 pages to directly to 100 pages, right? Now when you know that the answer I can find it is in unit 2, why would you go and want to read what is there in unit 1? That is a waste of effort and time, right? So now what exactly you do is you try to read and try to find it in unit 2 directly, right? So over here what we do is we narrow down the concepts in whatever way possible so that it is easier for us to search. Okay, so that is exactly what data retrieval does over here. Okay, if narrowing down in the sense, so if you tell me to think about a number, for example, this narrowing down, I'll help you understand with one simple example, and then maybe we'll go ahead with programming stuff and all of that, right? So, and this is going to be an introductory session only. we can go and take more, and we can talk about more and more things, but we'll just try to keep things pretty simple here. Okay. So narrowing down simply means, so okay, guess a number. Guess a number. I would want you guys to guess a number. Okay. And think about a number basically and write it in the chat. I will tell you what am I trying to say. Okay. So let's say Urvesh Mansoori has written 7, and I have to guess what number Urvesh Mansoori has thought about, right? So what narrowing down means over here is that I simply ask questions to him. Okay, Urvesh, is your number greater than 50 or smaller than 50? He would say it is smaller than 50. Then I'll ask Urvesh, okay, makes sense. Is it a prime number? He says that yes, it is a prime number. Okay. And then I'll ask him, Urvesh, is it a single digit number or not, right? Then he'll say it is a single digit number. So from a list of 100 numbers, based on the questions that I've asked, right, I got to know from Urvesh that whether it is greater than 50 or not. He said it is less than 50. So from 100, now I have to search and think about that number from 100 to 50 numbers. Now I have to guess amongst 50 numbers, right? Now then what Urvesh says me is, um, I simply ask Urvesh, is it a prime number or not? So he says that yes, it is a prime number. Okay, now I have narrowed down even more. Maybe there are like 10 prime numbers now, okay, which are also less than 50. Then what I ask Urvesh is it a single digit number? And then Urvesh says, yes, it is a single digit number. So initially I was thinking and I had to guess from a list of 100 numbers, right? Now all I have to do is I have to guess from single digit prime numbers, right? Which are only 4. So did you see what I have done over here is I have narrowed down the amount of numbers that I have to guess the correct answer from. So the probability of me guessing the number, if one number from 100 is 1%, right? But now, since I have asked so many questions to Urvesh, now my probability has increased from 1% to 25%, right? So that is exactly what narrowing down means. So when we are trying to ask whatever questions that you ask from the prompt over here, right? We try to narrow down the information as much as we can. So this is exactly what similarity search does for us, right? Did you guys understand this much? Yes, no? The user asks a question, right? What this data retrieval does is this data retrieval does a similarity search from the data source that you have. It can be a PDF document, it can be a text file, it can be an Excel sheet, Word document, anything, right? Anything. So you can ask a question over here, it does all of that, and then it does a similarity search. Based on that similarity search, it generates an answer, right? And then it gives you a response. So that is what and how RAG works. Did you guys understand? Yes, no? Great. So one very simple example that again I will give you is of you know semantic caching and all of that stuff. It would be too deep. We can skip for now, right? Similarly, we have documents over here. We have vector DB, the same thing which I have talked about, right? The same thing we have. So in advanced drag also the same thing happens, right? Uh, let me show you with a simple example. Okay, so let's say we have this thing over here and I'm in chat gpt right now. I'll simply go over here and I will just paste this one document which I have downloaded before the session, right? And I'll ask him that what is the reference of alpha fold being given here in the document, right? So now typically what does ChatGPT do in this case is It reads the document that I have uploaded, right? It understands the question that I am pasted, right? And then it, so for ChatGPT, my data source is this document, right? So, which you were seeing over here, right? Um, just share this tab. So for ChatGPT, the source of information is my document now, right? I ask a question that what do you think? Why was the reference of AlphaFold given in this document, right? Now, what it does is it tries to do similarity search, right? And then based on that, it tries to give me the top three or top five most similar things where through which I would be able to give the answer to Bhavishya. That is what ChatGPT will think. It's like the same thing that happens over here is you you are cheating in an exam. You do not know the answer. You take out the notes and you know that it is somewhere there in the notes in unit 2, right? So from the other 100 pages of this entire notes, which was from like your 100 pages to 200 pages, for example, you get to know that yes, I can find this concept in page number 110 to 115 and 150 to 155, right? So from these 10 pages out of 200 pages initially, you narrowed it down to 100 pages, right? Which is like the last 100 pages of the notes, right? And then from that, what you did is you narrowed it down even more to 10 pages, right? Now, you give this 10 pages to the LLM, or in your case, in the cheating example, you read these 10 pages, right? You try to find it in these 10 pages, you get the information, and then you make your own answer, right? That is exactly what happens here. So it simply says that on page 5, document references AlphaFold from Google as an example of an AI system which uses AI to predict 3D structure of nearly every protein in human body, right? So this is the reference of AlphaFold that was given over here. So whatever questions that I ask, if it is there in this document, it would be able to give it to me. Now you might be asking me that, sir, this is what ChatGPT is doing is RAG, right? So if ChatGPT is already doing, why do I even have to learn it, right? Why do I build my own application, right? I mean, did you guys have a question like that in your mind? You guys are thinking about it? Yes, no? Let me know what you guys think. What is up your head? Do you guys have any idea? If if ChatGPT is already doing, why are we learning it? What is the point of learning? You guys want to give it a try? Yes, if ChatGPT is already doing this, you saw it over here right now, right? In ChatGPT. So I asked this question to ChatGPT and it simply gave me the answer, right? It simply gave me the answer. So if ChatGPT is already doing it, why should I learn? This is a valid question that you should ask, right? Why is Bhavishya sir, when he's not well, is taking a session for us? When something like this already exists, what is the point of learning? Give it a try. To develop our own and make application for our own self. Can we build RAG without internet access? Yes, Bharat, you can do it, but then you'll have to have the LLM locally in your system. If ChatGPT was doing, why can't we learn too? Okay, Dadi Madhu, very good perspective. To do it with more clarity. Okay. So basically, if you are in an interview, right, and your interviewer asks you that, so this is these types of questions that I'm asking you can actually also be asked in interview to you as well, right? And that is exactly why I'm asking these questions to you, right? So that this is not just informative, but also more like interview preparation for you in some or the other way. You get some exposure and understanding of what type of questions can be asked to you in an interview, right? Can we create games in RAG? No, Anirudh. The purpose of RAG is different. It is not for creating games. So the answer to this question is, when ChatGPT can already do is, but still why would you want to do it, is because there can be certain important information that you have which you would not want to share it with ChatGPT, right? So let's say there is your personal bank account information in your document. Would you want to upload it to ChatGPT? Yes, no? You would not want. Do you share your bank account details with anyone? Yes, no. Let me see how what crowd am I addressing. Do you guys share your bank account details with anyone? Right. You, there are certain things which you keep to yourself, right? That is exactly what happens here as well. So even when ChatGPT, so a company asks that, okay, ChatGPT is already doing this, right? You're looking for internships in generative AI or through AI or some AI role, right? And you're sitting an interview. Your interviewer can simply ask you that, boss, why, can you tell me why do we still have to build RAG applications, or why RAG is still relevant when the same thing has already been done with ChatGPT? Is because of data privacy. Data privacy bole to, there is some data that you cannot share it with anyone, right? There is some information that you cannot share with anyone, right? So in your example, this is bank details, right? For someone else's example, it can be something else. You have gotten an offer letter, right? For example, you do not want to talk about it to others, for example, or for example, your relatives. Okay. So that is data privacy. You do not want to share your information with anyone else. Similarly, there are these models, third party models. When you upload your document, the data goes to them. It is always safe to assume that, right? Yes, you can always share share the bank account details with zero balance. Yes, that can be done, right? So that is one part of it. Okay. So what are the components of RAG? We'll quickly get this thing done in like next 5-10 minutes, right? Uh, so what are the components of RAG now? The RAG components are three components. Okay. You have a retriever. You first have a user input where user gives some input to to the system, to this RAG system. Some, it can be a query, it can be something, relatable information that he wants to extract, can be a question, anything, right? Now what this system does is, it converts this query into vectors. Vectors, as I had said earlier, they are numerical representation of your data. Okay. It converts it into a vector. Okay. And it converts the document that you have uploaded into vectors as well. So it converts both of them to vectors, right? And then it does a similarity search. Okay. So if I'm supposed to tell you and explain it with a simple example, you know English, right? But the notes that you have gotten from maybe are in Kannada, for example. Okay. And you don't know Kannada, right? So what is your responsibility first? To convert the notes from Kannada to English, or convert the question that you have to Kannada and then look out for that answer or that concept in Kannada from the notes. Right? Did you guys understand? Or do you guys want me to explain it again? Or a simple example. The question paper is in Kannada, right? Um, and you know Kannada, but the notes are in English. Okay. So what do you do in that case is, you understand the question in Kannada, okay? You translate it into English, and then from that English, you try to do a similarity search. You try to skim through the notes and find out which is the most relevant information from here, right? So you converted it into English, right? That is exactly what we do here also, right? We convert it to vectors Here, vectors are not a specific language, but they are numerical representations of data such that similarity search can happen easily. Right? Did you guys understand that? Yes, no? This is what vectors are, and that is why we do it, so that we can do similarity search. Okay? Now, once similarity search is done, we take out top chunks. We find out that acha, haan bhai, this is the most important, uh, most relevant information from the chunk, right? As I was telling that maybe page number 125, this concept is mentioned in page number 125. This concept is mentioned in page number 130 and 150, for example, right? So now what you do is you only read these three pages. Instead of earlier reading all the 200 pages, you narrowed it down to 100 pages, and then going forward, you narrowed it down to 3 pages, right? Now, finding an answer from 200 pages to finding an answer from 3 pages, which one is easier for you? The 3 pages one, right? So that is exactly happens here as well. So once we have narrowed it down, top chunks means we have narrowed it down information. From 200 pages, we have found out that the most relevant information would be in these 3 pages. So top chunks is the pages which has the maximum probability of me being able to find the concept. So let's say if I want to find out photosynthesis, it is a 200-page science notes, right? I found out that of all the topics it is talking about, right? It can be laws of motion, it can be, reproduction system, it can be, photosynthesis, animal kingdom, and all of that stuff, right? If the question is around photosynthesis, I from page number 125 and page number 126 is are the pages where I would be able to find this information. So now I do not have to remember everything. I do not have to go through everything. I just have to refer page number 125 and 126. So these are my top K chunks, the most relevant information. Now I read these pages, I read the question that was asked to me, right? And then I generate an answer. That is what RAG is. Simple terms, that is exactly what the RAG does. Nothing else. Is the concept RAG as a whole clear to you guys? If this is clear, we are pretty good. We are pretty good to go. To do a very small hands-on session, right? My health is holding me back, but I hope I'm able to answer the questions, or I'm trying my best to keep it as simple as possible. Apologies. That is why I was also not able to switch on my camera right now. But I hope it is helping you out in some way. If you have any questions till now, if there is something which you have not understood, please ask me. I'd be more than happy to help you. I mean, of course, it would be very difficult for me to ask the questions like destroying the world and things like that, which Thanos Singh was asking earlier. But apart from that, if you have any other questions, please ask me. So Urvesh Mansuri is asking, sir, in this we have to use cosine similarity for top K chunks. Is there any other algorithm for it? Usually cosine similarity is done. Apart from that, Jacquard similarity and all of that stuff has also been taken care by. But usually we go for cosine similarity in this. Now again, in that it depends on the kind of information that you are having. Can you explain about RAG, sir? What is okay? It's like I talked about Ramayan, and at the end of the day, you are asking me who was Sita, right? So RAG is nothing but a quick recap before we jump on to the coding part, and I think we'd be done with this session then. So RAG is nothing but a way where you simply answer questions based on external information, right? That's it. So let me share my other tab, right? And let me know if you guys are able to see it or not. Okay. So before we get started in this, right? Initially, we would need something like we first need to go to Google AI Studio. So I will show that part as well. So what do we have to do is we first have to go to Google AI Studio, okay? And you'll have to get an API key. Without API key, things won't work for you, okay? So you click over here on Get API Key. And by the way, guys, this is completely free. That is the best part of using Gemini and Google. This is completely free. Okay. Now, what you do is you create an API key. Now, how do you do that is you click on Create API Key, select a project. You just name it like API underscore key or something like that. You select a project, right? And then you click on Create API Key. Now, I have these different API keys created, right? So if I'll just click on it, my API key gets selected, right? Or it works. I can simply copy it from here as well, right? So once this is done, we can simply do it. We just have to then paste it in something like .env, which is for our .env files, right? So what .env basically does is it saves our credentials which we cannot share it with anyone else, right? So that is the purpose of .env over here. Uh, so that is that is one part of it, so you can do it simultaneously also. Apart from that, I would also be sharing the code with all of you, right? So which ways you guys would be able to get, right? So that is not even a problem at all. I'd be sharing the notebook with the organizers. It's just going to be one notebook. Earlier I was thinking that maybe we can build a full-fledged application, but I think that would be slightly overboard for an introductory session, right? I do not want to intimidate you with by bombarding a lot of things, right? So simply you have this .env file, right, where you would have your API key. So let's say if I create an env.example file, it would look something like Google underscore API key, and then you can just paste your API key here. So it can be AIX and then something like that over here, right? So this is what your .env file would look like. You can keep it like this, or you can have it as a string over here as well. Everything works, right? Both of them work in this case. Okay. So once you have created this, we first need to install certain set of packages, right? How many of you are familiar with Python? Yes, no? Are you guys familiar with Python? Yes, sir. Yes, yes, yes. Great. So you already are familiar with requirements.txt installations and all of that stuff, right? Or you want me to? Great. So we have this thing over here. We'll first have list of Python packages that we'll have to install, right? We'll have LangChain Google AI, Gen AI, right? LangChain community, we have text splitters, Fetch, CPU, PyPDF, and all of that stuff. Streamlit is for web UI. I can walk you through it, but will be slightly overboard for one session, right? Initially, I was thinking that I'll show you from what RAG is, Gen AI RAG, and then building your first RAG application to even deploying, right? But then I realized by understanding this that might be a slightly a bit overload, might be intimidating for a lot of the audience. That is why we can have another session where we can maybe talk about it, right? That is a different thing. But these are the packages that we'll have to install, right? And apart from that, we'll have to have first our virtual environment also been created, right? So for creating that virtual environment, what exactly we do is we simply write python hyphen mvenv, right? I have already created it, so I don't have to do it. But when you press enter, it would create something like venv for you. And when you want to activate it, you simply just write source VNV. This is for Mac. For your if you are using a Windows laptop, that'd be slightly different, right? So you activate your virtual environment. Now the idea of a virtual environment is you would want all of your packages to be installed in your virtual environment itself. It's like you have a separate pocket for your this project, which is dedicated only to this project, and then I'm installing all the packages from here. So it's like pip install -r and then requirements.txt. So when I'll press enter, I have already installed these packages. So that's why it's there, right? Now I had downloaded one PDF file for this, which talks about introduction to artificial intelligence, right? Which basically talks about the all of these things, right? Data fuel and all of that stuff, right? So we can pick any particular question from here as well, and then we can ask over here, right? These are certain imports, right? But overall, what it does is Py PDF is to read your PDF, right? Text splitter is basically doing the same thing. It splits your entire notes, your entire document into smaller chunks, and then it does what it does is it tries to find out where exactly in which chunk would I be able to find this information. So in the example of 200 pages notes, right? Your chunk is one page is every chunk. Okay, for example, every chunk, one page is equivalent to one chunk. So what you do is you try to memorize which is that chunk where I would be able to, or which is that page where I would be able to find about photosynthesis, right? So this is exactly what this is also doing. So you have so many pages of document, and now based on that, what would you want to call a chunk? Is it one page? Is it like 500 characters, etc., etc.? So is determined by this package, right? Now your chat Google generative AI is your LLM. Is to access LLM through the API key, which I have showed you how to get that API key, right? Your face is a vector database, right? So I told you what vectors are, right? So the question paper is in Kannada, but your notes are in English. So you convert it once, and then you translate the language, and then you look out for the response. But the problem over here is, if you see, you have to translate it every time. Did you understand? Yes, no? You are translating it every time. That is a problem. That is an overhead for you. Did you guys understand? Whatever question is coming, the question paper that is coming to you is in Kannada or is in Tamil, for example, or whatever language that you would want to talk about, right? That is okay. But the notes that your topper friend has given you is in English. Now the problem is that you have to translate every again and again, right? But what if you read all the questions at once and translate them all at once, okay? So that you don't have to translate it again and again, right? You already know what the translated questions are, right? So you don't have to do it again. That is exactly what vector databases are for. Once you have computed and translated it or converted it to numbers, numerical representation, you have converted your user input, and basically you have converted your entire document into vector representation. You do not have to do it again and again, right? Rather than doing it again, you simply have done it once, and then you referred the vectors that you have converted. Simple, very simple, right? That is the purpose. And now once you have converted it, you'll have to store it somewhere, right? So you store it in face CPU, vector DB, right? That is what happens over here. Similarly, Hugging Face embeddings are for converting the embeddings, right? Embeddings are you're converting vector embeddings, right? So this is what is being used. Python.env is, so we load our .env file right over here, or because I've simply kept this like this also, still it would have worked, right? We keep it this way. We give a name of the model, right? The LLM which we want to use. We want to use a re-ranker model as well, right? And then the embedding model. Embedding model is which converts my text, the text over here, which you are able to see over here in this document. It converts it into numerical representation, right? So this is the embedding model which would help us do that, right? So what I will do is I will simply run this once, and my cell has executed. Are you guys familiar with Jupyter Notebook? Just trying to get an understanding, if because there are certain people who are from first year and second year as well. Just trying to understand. You guys know what Jupyter Notebook is? Yes, no? The majority of the people know it. Great. So Jupyter Notebook is nothing but your way of, being able to execute these cells in such a way where it is easier to understand. So you don't really have to run the Python file again and again. Okay. So now what we do over here is we provide a path to a single PDF file, so which is this file, right? And then we chunk it and build vector index on it. Building vector index in the sense we are vectorizing it. Okay. So we read the Python, the PDF file from here, right? Then we pass it to PDF reader so that it would be able to read this PDF file. And then based on that, I want it to extract all the textual information, text information which is there in the PDF and store it in this corpus texts. Okay. That is what I'm doing. So it's like your topper friend has gone through all the PPTs that the professor has shared, right? And then she has made a notes out of all the pages, all the PPTs, right? That is what she has done. Okay. And now she has given this PDF to you. So what you do now is you break it down to 500 characters, right? You call it one chunk. Okay. And then you split it up like that. So it says that you have loaded one PDF and then it shows you how many total number of chunks are there. So for example, if I'll increase the chunk size to 1000, right, the number of these chunks will decrease. It's like if there are 200 pages of notes and I say that for me, one chunk is one page. So there are 200 chunks, right? But if you tell me that no, Bhavishya sir, for me, one chunk is equivalent to two pages. So for me, there are 200 chunks, but by your definition, the chunks would be 100 only. Why? Because for how I was treating was one page equals to one chunk. But how you are doing is, how Anirudh was doing was two pages equals to one chunk, right? So if two pages equals to one chunk, then the total number of chunks are 200 divided by 2, that is 100, right? So now it'd be like, what is why deciding the chunk size is important is because if the chunk size is too large, then possibility is that it would not be able to remember it. It's like uploading the entire document in one go. If Anirudh one day comes and says that Bhavishya sir, for me, one chunk is 200 pages, then it is equivalent to remembering 200 pages, right? That is exactly what we don't want to do. We want to have, but if the chunk size is again too small, right, then there are too many chunks to handle. Then also it is very difficult to understand. If you'll come and tell me that one sentence is one chunk, then also you are a gone case. So the chunk size has to be, balance in life is important, right? You have to need to have the right sweet spot balance over here, such that it is easier to find. So if in this case, one page is one chunk, for example, then you are able to identify which page exactly I have to refer. Did you guys understand? Yes, no? So that is exactly what we do here. Did you guys understand? Yes, no? Yes, sir, very clearly. Great. So now what we are doing is we have created chunks out of it. Okay. Now what I want to, I can either create embeddings through Hugging Face embeddings, or I can create it through this embedding model as well. But I wanted to show some diversity, so I'm just using Hugging Face model over here, right? And now I am just creating these embeddings over here. Okay, so what it will do is it will create these embeddings for me, right? and now my vector index and all of that stuff is ready, right? Is ready now. Okay, so it has converted all of them to vector embeddings. Okay, converted what? Converted my entire document, right? Now here is a prompt template that I have where I ask him to be very helpful assistant, right? And if the answer, if the question that I have asked, if it is not there in the context, simply tell me that I don't know the answer, right? Very simple, right? Simply tell that I don't know the answer, nothing else, right? That is what this template is doing. Now over here is answer with context. So I feed it a question and the context texts. Okay. And then I give it to this prompt, right? And then this prompt is then given to our LLM. What that means is I ask a question, right? So it's like I've asked a question over here. This is doing nothing. This segment is doing nothing, but the question that I've asked, it dynamically inputs the question here. Simple as that. Nothing else it is doing. Okay. It is putting my question here, right? And the context that I have gotten from the chunks that I had created earlier, right? It just puts them over here, right? And then I'm passing it to LLM to give a response to me, right? That is what it does. And now this retrieve function, what it does is it gets my question, right? And it from the question that I have, it tries to retrieve the relevant information from that question. Okay. So let's say if the question was around photosynthesis, so what this part will do is from 200 pages of notes, it will try to figure out the most relevant pages which are related to photosynthesis. Now it will find out those pages like page number 125 and 126, right? And it will make a note of it. All the content that is there in these two pages, this is what it is doing, right? Now, this is the question. What is AlphaFold reference here in the document? The same question which I had asked to ChatGPT also, right? And now I'm running it. So what it has done is it figured out the most relevant chunks, and now it has given an answer to me based on that. But let's say if I simply change the question, did RCB uh, win IPL finals ever? Which of course would not be there in something like just simply says that I don't know, right? Because in a document which talks about artificial intelligence, it would not know that whether Royal Challenger Bangalore has won the IPL finals or not, right? So this is exactly what it does. This is what your RAG is. Long story short, you give your question, right? You give your documents, and then based on that it vectorizes the document. Vectorizing is the document conversion happens. It converts your documents to numerical representation, right? And the question that you ask also to a numerical representation. From that it does a similarity search. It figures out the most relevant chunks, and then what it does is it tries to give answer based on the most relevant chunks, right? So in this case, the most relevant chunks were page number 125 and 126. It reads them and then it gives answer based on that, right? So then it says I don't know, right? Then we have this own thing which is around re-ranker and all of that stuff. You can there are certain things that I can still cover if you'd want me to, right? This basically does nothing. Sometimes what exactly happens is um, the responses, the top chunks, right, that it fetches for us are are similar but are not relevant. Okay, so what that means is, uh, in those notes, if let's say your friend has had written that, of course, I have to cook my own food because, like plants, I don't know photosynthesis. I cannot do photosynthesis, right? So that is why I'll have to cook my own food. right? Now, but the question that was asked was photosynthesis. So now your friend is not a plant, is a human, and that is why she'll have to manually cook the food. That is what she has written in her notes. God knows why, but that is what she has written in her notes. Do you think that is a relevant information, or that is something which you would want to write in your answer, like in your final question paper? That my friend does not know how to cook food because she's not a plant, right? So that is not something which you would want to write, right? So that is exactly what happens here as well. We have re-ranker. So over here, but photosynthesis is relevant, right? But you cannot use that information. Did you guys understand? Yes, no? So that is exactly what is here as well. Okay, that is exactly happens here as well. Sometimes even when the similarity search, the it is similar, but it is not useful. Okay, that is what re-rankers are for. So it sort of swipes out those chunks which sound relevant, which sounds similar but are not relevant, right? And then based on that, in this case it is pretty straightforward. That is why you would be able to see the same answer, right? But cases where the questions are a bit complex and all of that stuff, then the story changes a bit. Okay, so that's when the story happens there. Okay, now in this part you can always try your own questions. Once the foundations are laid off, what you have to do is it's just I would say 10 lines of code that you have, right? So any question that you would want me to ask, it would be able to answer that. Whether it would be able to say that what is artificial intelligence, right? And I'll simply run it. So it will find out what is the score of each and every chunk. There is no single universally definition, but Oxford defines that the capacity of computers or other machines to exhibit intelligent behavior, right? So that is what it has said. Okay, but if I'll ask him who is the Prime Minister of India, would not be able to answer. Who is the PM of India, would not be able to answer, because that information is not there. See, you would see score minus 11.2, minus 11. So that is not there. The information is not there because the document that I had fed is around artificial intelligence, right? So, this is what RAG is and how RAG works in simple terms, right? This is an introductory session for you, where in this session, quick recap where you have learned what is generative AI, what is large language model, right? And what are the challenges of large language models, and why we needed RAG, right? Over there, I explained it to you with the example of cheating and Viva, so that it's more relatable and it is easier to understand. And then I walked you through a simple line of code, simple Jupyter notebook, which walks you through how RAG works. And if you would want to build your own RAG system, how do you do it? Now, going forward, you can have a Streamlit UI around it or a React UI around it, right? Where the entire things have been running, API is built, and then you have deployed that application somewhere, right? So that is what one part which you can do. Okay, so that's these are the part and parcel of it. That's pretty much from my side for this session, guys. If you have any questions, do let me know. Did you guys understand this much? You have any other questions, queries? Source code I will share with all of you. Need not worry about that. I will share everything. Sir, which AI tool is best to store database? I mean, everything, any is fine. In your use case, you should not be thinking as much, because the use cases that you'll be working on would not be production heavy or for any particular use case. If you're asking about vector DB, I think Face would be good. You can go for Milvus and all of that stuff as well. But the best thing about Face is it's open source and easy to use. Sir, is RAG useful for civil engineering students? Yes, Sachin, it is. It is useful. If you'd want to go for, I would say, generative AI in the fields of generative AI and all of that stuff, RAG is something which definitely would be asked to you in the interviews and you'd be working on, right? So if you have passion for computer science, despite being in civil engineering, if you'd want to get an IT job, especially in AI, so this is going to be very useful for you. I used Firebase real-time DB for my app to store vector DB. Is it okay or any better option? Yes, that should work. That should work. So, any drawbacks are there for this code which can be improved further? Yes, Papsula. There are first of all, I really like that your name is also Bhavishya. So there are certain drawbacks. It's good that you have highlighted. So right now, this is understanding only one document. That is one part. So let's say you have multiple documents. So that is one drawback right now. Now, and another drawback could be it is only referring to the textual part. It is not understanding visual part. So there are charts, there are architecture diagrams, there can be flow charts. But right now, since it is a very simple RAG application, it is not able to understand that part as well, right? Similarly, if the document is very complex, there can be accuracy drops. If the document that you are, if the question that you are asking requires some multiple reasoning steps, right? So those aspects, nuances are also not covered over here because, of course, it is a simple RAG application where I wanted to introduce you to what RAG is, right? So these are certain areas where you can go and read by yourself, and current drawbacks of the existing system. So who is better between ChatGPT and RAG? So ChatGPT in this case is also doing RAG. There is nothing like who is better. They both are doing the same thing. In that case, the level of question that the ChatGPT system would be able to answer would be better because they have developed way more better pipelines. In my case, to demonstrate what RAG to you is, it is pretty simple, pretty straightforward, right? But if there are any multiple complex questions, if you are asking, or if you want to go ahead for multiple sources of documentation and all of that stuff, ChatGPT would be able to handle it better. But still, you should pursue RAG because let's say the company that you join, they are trying to build they are trying to build a custom chatbot for their own system. You cannot go for ChatGPT, right? You will have to build something by yourself. What are the real world use cases applications? Chatbot, I told you, right? A chat with your document, right? So this is one of the biggest use cases. Sir, can you explain how RAG improves accuracy in NLP applications? Shrikant, what happens over here is uh, hallucination happens, right? The same example I had given earlier, which was about Anirudh would not be able to remember 200 pages of information. Okay. But Anirudh for sure can remember 2 pages, right? So what RAG does is it narrows down the information that an LLM has to remember. Similarly, Anirudh cannot remember 200 pages. LLM also cannot remember 200 pages. But that should not stop us. So what we have done is we have developed certain aspects where we narrow down the information. I don't I cannot remember 200 pages, but I can remember 2 pages. So what RAG does is before giving the context to LLM, right, it narrows down the relevant information. It finds out from 200 pages, I have to find 3 pages which has the most relevant information based on the question that has been asked. Okay. So instead of giving 200 pages, it gives 2 or 3 pages to the LLM. Now from 2-3 pages, it is easier for the LLM to frame a response and then give answer to you. Hope that is clear. What are the main challenges when deploying RAG in any production system? Good question, Yashwant Racharu. So one of the problems is that you'll have to do monitoring, right? And you have to provide where the sources are coming from. So that is also one more problem. Explainability can be a problem, right? You'll need to have evaluations to it. Now in this, I did not show you evaluations, right? We could have seen evaluations as well over here. So there are a lot of things that we can talk about and cover. So production related issues, this is one of the challenges. Now let's say in production, now if you are catering to a lot of users, then that can again be a problem. You'll have to lower the latency. You'll have to have if let's say your system has the capability to accept any documents, right? Then different vector dbs have to be maintained. How do you maintain that, right? Or if it is only one vector db that you have and then people are referring it, so it's like you have created a chatbot for your company, right? And then people are trying to hit that chatbot with the question with a database or data PDF document which you have fed, then that's a different thing. So based on what situation you have, the problem statements you are working for, the type of challenges that you can encounter would be different. But I've tried to, from an overview level, I've tried to cover it for you. Can RAG provide a hybrid search? Yes, RAG can provide a hybrid search. So in this case, hybrid search would be something like if there is something which LLM already knows from its information from the data that it has been trained on, it would be able to give an answer based on its own knowledge, right? But let's say you have asked something which the LLM does not know. So what it will do is it will refer the document that you have given, and then based on that, you can extract information and give the response to the user. This not necessarily is covered in RAG, but this is, you'll have to customize your RAG by a bit, and then from that it would be able to give answers based on that. Can we integrate RAG with already existing chatbots or any websites? Yes, you can do it, but again, I'm not sure how those chatbots or websites are working. Is RAG access the internet for giving the answers? No, in this case, RAG is not referring or accessing the internet, right? A RAG is only accessing the document, PDF document that you have given. Uh, from the internet perspective, it is internet connection is still required because API key that you have given for the Gemini LLM to generate an answer, internet connection is still required, right? These are two different things. Urvesh has a question. Here is my simple project note-taking app with vector embed chatbot and vector-based knowledge search, chatbot for instant queries, vector embedding for knowledge search, and Gemini for LLM support. Okay, I built this project now. What type of project should I build to learn more things and build strong foundations? So what you can do is you can strengthen your foundations by going to agents, right? Building agentic RAG, where you can where the system can automatically and intelligently identify, do I have to go to the internet from the answer to fetch out the answer, or do I have to give the answer based on my own knowledge, or do I have to refer from the documents? Or you can go for multimodal RAG, right, where the model also has document understanding, okay, where it understands the document and gives a response based on the document understanding which it has gotten. So you can do these things as well. Can RAG be used for tasks beyond question answering and text generation? Initially, that is what the main idea of RAG is, what I'm able to think of right now. Right, that is what the main purpose of RAG is. But if there is something else where you would want to give it a try, you just put it up on me. Just put that as a question, and I'll let you know if RAG can be used for that part or not. RAG provides hybrid search. Dinesh, I already answered. Yes, it does. I mean, you have to customize the solution, but it is possible. ChatGPT stores the data that we search similarity. The RAG can do it or not. Yes, RAG is also doing the same thing. Sai Prasad Dora. RAG is also doing the same thing. Is it possible to combine RAG with fine tuning? Yes, Nanda Prasad, you can do it. Do we need a vector DB to implement RAG? or else are there any alternatives? Yes, we need a vector database for it. So I had told you, right, the objective of vector database was to make sure that you are able to you store all your vectors in one go, so that you don't have to compute your vectors again and again, because that is a costly affair, right? You do not want to do that. So that is exactly why vector DB was required initially. DB is to store your information, right? If you guys have any more questions, feel free to ask, guys. I'd be more than happy to help you all. Full-fledged best example for RAG model other than chatbot. What I have seen talking to multiple people, usually people use it for chatbots only, right? So that is what I would say. I mean, you might think like there can be other use cases which I'm thinking right now, but again, they circumvent. We need it. I'm sorry, and you'll have to ask some question. All right, based on your question and the external database or external source of information, it gives you. I'm sorry again. It gives you response, right? So that is exactly what RAG also does. That is what I'm trying to say. I mean, that is what chatbot also is doing, right? Let me take one or two questions more, and then I'll take a leave because I'm not feeling well. I'm so sorry. Based on your experience, what is the single biggest mistake teams make when moving from their first RAG app to prototype to production ready systems? Based on my experience, uh, the foremost problem is, of course, you have to. People do not log things properly, right? And at the same time, you'll have to do certain set of experimentations, right? Just because certain things have worked for you in your first RAG app, like a simple. I mean, okay, I'm getting a lot of things in my head. Again, over here also we have to scope down. What exactly is it? Is it a specific use case? The problems can be many, right? When do you intelligently have to switch to multimodal embedding? Sometimes the challenge that you can have is based on latency. Sometimes is it hallucination? Sometimes the evaluation metrics are not set, right? Sometimes it is the response that it is given is also fooling evaluation metrics as well, right? So how do you integrate human in the loop as well? So based on the use case that you are in, the challenges depends based on that, and of course the kind of solutions that you also propose are different. What is the difference between retrieval and I'm amazing, sir. I'll ask my mom. I'm caught up in weather. That is why it's happening. Again, I'm so sorry. Because of this, I could not switch on my video. Yeah, but I hope. Thanks for being so patient and understanding. How is RAG useful for data analysts? Again, it is useful for anyone who's trying to build systems where you are, you know, where you want to build applications around answering questions based on certain set of knowledge base. It is going to be important for you, irrespective. Again, as I said, right, it is the same question as someone had asked about how important is RAG for civil engineering students. If you have interest in CS and if you want to get a job in AI or around AI, right? So RAG is something which you have to cover and you'll have to read any which ways. What are the main cost drivers in a production RAG system? Is it vector database hosting, the embedding API calls, or the LLM generation tokens? It can be all of them, or it can be none also. It depends on the usage, right? And I'll tell you how. So let's say if you have a very big document or if you have a lot of documents, then your price of hosting the vector DB can go really up, right? Now, since you have so many documents, hence vectorizing all of those documents will also, your cost for that can also go up. Again, it is based on usage. Now, you have how you are chunking and how many chunks are being given. That determines how many tokens the LLM has to generate, right? So let's say if your chunk size is very big, so you give a lot of context to the LLM to answer one simple question, right? To answer a simple question, if the chunk size would have been slightly lesser, you could have saved cost. So again, that is one part. Now again, in LLM token generation also, how many people are using your application, that determines what your cost would be for that. So depends again. That depends on what situation you are in. Sir, it is use RAG in cybersecurity or blockchain, sir. Integrations, cybersecurity. I would say that it would be able to, if you have a cybersecurity use case or a blockchain use case over there, if you would want to have a RAG as a feature, then you can add it, right? Not sure what use case you are thinking of, or you're just asking a question out of the blue. Not sure of that, right? But let's say there is some system that you have created and you can add RAG as a feature. So then your system, your entire project would be around where I'm trying to work around cybersecurity and RAG, for example, or cybersecurity and generative AI together in this use case. Then that's a different thing. So yes, that part can be done. Using RAG is free or paid, like limited access, like an API. So RAG is free to use, but with some limited access, right? As I was saying, you can use it for free as well, right? But there will be some limited access. Gemini, you can give it a check, guys, right? It will be pretty good and be able to, you pretty much like it, right? Nevertheless, guys, I think we can end the session. I'm sharing my LinkedIn profile over here if you have any questions or if you would continue to learn about generative AI. If through this session I have sparked the curiosity of the possibilities of generative AI in you, like what are things you can learn and do, you can definitely check out my profile. I often post around generative AI and all of the different things that you can do in easy to understand fashion. So you can always give it a check. And if you have any questions, also you can connect over there. I will also share my Instagram handle. So in case you would want to connect there, we can connect there as well. But I'd really like to thank you all for being a part of this session, and I really had a great time being amongst you all. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining the session. And yes, I have shared my LinkedIn and my Instagram both, so you can give it a check. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining the session. I had a great time. Yes, I think the team can take over now.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir, for taking the session. Actually, I have been told you are not aware of it, or else we would have revised the schedule. But yes, students very interactive. The Q&A also went very well. We do appreciate the efforts given by you. And sorry for I joined very late actually. You can please share your LinkedIn and Instagram once again. It has went somewhere in the chat.
I will share my LinkedIn and Instagram again, not a problem. So here is my LinkedIn and here's my Instagram. I've shared it again. You guys can give it a check. Again, thank you very much, everyone.
I'll also share the same thing in the group as well with students, and it's time to share the attendance form. Some students have stayed back for a long time. Just
Sure. So what I will do is I will also share the notebook with you, right? So which students can refer and they can change the code and tweak around the code to experiment and learn more. Right. Cool. Thank you very much, Saurav and team. I had a great time.
thank you so much, sir. It was. We would also like to have you again for this session with some more practical experience.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Thank you very much, everyone. Bye bye. Have a great day ahead.
Yeah, I request students to stay back actually. So we'll discuss regarding attendance, and if you have any doubt, what is the upcoming session is going to be, when is the next event, if you guys are really interested to connect acting with us for such type of events. The attendance form has been already shared, so please fill your attendance and we'll make sure that your certificates are sent to you by today itself. Once the attendance part is done, please get back onto the chat. And I did instructed that certificates will be shared to only the students who fill the attendance, and within 5 to 10 minutes we'll be closing the response sheet as well. Your ticket number, registration number, you might find it in your roll number. If you're a student, you must be aware of it. But if you're an employee, yeah. It is your hard ticket number, not the number.